everybody, welcome back to the Jodo Cast, your home for Star Wars gaming. I'm Joe, but before we get any further, I'm going to play a noise, not for you, but shout out to listener Ken Sketch, who on our Discord complained that this noise wasn't happening on the show frequently enough, so you know what? Here it is.
That's the kind of quality service you get on this podcast. We'll play any sound you want.
Now, see, you should make
Noise
that
it.
part of the patron levels.
It just sound.
Yeah.
You upload an MP3, I'll play it on the show. And I'm Joe. Today we got Kurt.
Hey.
And Leo's nowhere to be found, but in his place we have Evan.
Hey.
Because Evan was at Adepticon with me. And Evan, word on the street is he has lots of thoughts in his head about it, and we're going to let him get them out. And I may or may not also have thoughts. But we do a thing here called What You Been Playing. Evan, what Star Wars games have you been playing since the last time we spoke, which was last week?
It was last week. Oh.
Yeah, this special occasion, 2 episodes in 1 month.
We have time to talk about what we've been playing this time, so you get like extra.
Well, what have I been playing for Star Wars? Not a lot since Adepticon, unfortunately.
Well, we'll cover anything that happened at Adepticon shortly.
Exactly.
Kurt, you play any Star Wars games?
A few things, actually, more than usual. I've been playing some Star Wars Unlimited, including our webcam league has kicked off, so I've got some matches in for that. But also gone to some local events too, so I've been trying to get a little bit of playing in. I have played a little bit of, what's the correct name? Star Wars Lego The Skywalker Saga. I played a little bit recently, just like out of the blue, came back to it after years away, just because it's like, you know, every once in a while I need something that takes like no brain power. And it's like, you know, I can do some really easy game. Puzzles. Yeah, I finally did.
It's funny.
It's a little funny. It's not, you know, amazing. It's a kid's game and it shows, but it's like fun to dink around and be like, I'm going to switch to this character in this ship and I'm going to make progress on this planet. But I think he has no abilities, so he's useless. Like, he's one of the many, because you always have to switch to people. Like, there's a few classes you're always switching to because like you need them for like every puzzle, basically, which is like bounty hunters, scavengers, Jedi, and maybe droids for like unlocking some things, right? So it's like just switching between those a lot. I was able to do the puzzle with the standing stones, the rocks you find on different planets. That's just a quest you find on Utapau that's like, go to those places now. It's like, oh, so I finally did that thing. I thought it was going to be something more interesting, but it's just like, no, a guy on Utapau wants you to go to those rocks. You just have to talk to him first. Anyways,
have you played as Urail Poof?
I don't remember. I think I probably don't have him unlocked.
I recommend making that your quest is unlock him and play as him, because he has a lot of he's very I wouldn't be surprised if they took direct inspiration from the Robot Chicken version of that character. He's very funny. I think even if you go to Camino, there's like quips about how he's like, no, I'm not a Kaminoan, I'm something else. Nice. But he's very goofy. So that's my recommendation, is play as him.
That sounds cool. A lot of the characters I want to play as do not have any vocal sounds except grunts, which is annoying because it's like I kind of
they must be all the DLC characters. Then.
Yeah, it's like these are cool, but they're kind of dumb if they don't ever say anything. I don't know. Anyways, I've been playing that a little bit and having a little fun with it. Last thing I played recently is The Mandalorian Adventures. I finally played through the first mission with my wife. I want to get more into it. the start is very simple, but it's like, okay, there's kind of some neat stuff going on here, you know?
Right. The Bethany and I played the first 2 missions, and every mission adds on different characters. You can technically play as whichever characters you want at any time, but it does have like the, so-called canon options for the scene.
It's
And
interesting
every
that unlocking is kind of like built as a legacy esque mechanic,
right.
even though it doesn't really need to be, but it's kind of like slightly fun that it is. It's like, oh, I'm like unlocking these
Yeah,
cards and I haven't got to the envelopes yet. I don't know when those happen, but
me neither, but
it's like
it's
you could
it's
just
cool.
have a
It's
learn to play that says take these cards out when you play the quick play, but it's kind of fun to be like, oh, I've unlocked these cards.
right. It
I don't
keeps
know why.
layering in because like it starts, like statuses that can be applied to you or enemies and
Hmm.
new things. And the core mechanics of it are neat once you've like, because you're like, oh well, I can do any of these things, but if I do the thing I really want to do, it's going to make the AI go, and then we're in trouble. So it's interesting that you can sort of, you have to like watch out for when you're going to trigger the bad things to happen, unlike other co-op games where it's usually like, let's all go now that they have a go, or the bad
Yeah.
guys go after each turn, but you have control over it, but in like a way that's like a puzzle almost.
Yeah,
um
that's kind of interesting, and it seems like it will get more interesting the more cards we unlock and more characters we try. It reminds me like just a tiny little bit of Gloomhaven or Scythe, just in the way it like kind of limits what actions you could do, but it's different
mhm.
because you have that like again, like you said, there's that kind of puzzle to it in a little different way from those games of like, ooh, is it okay to trigger this thing with the bad guys? It might be like maybe this is an okay time to trigger a thing from the bad guys, or like, ooh, this could go really bad if they go after us. You kind of don't know, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding time to play more of
Yeah,
that. I think all I've played since we last convened was Unlimited, but
You've been winning.
no,
Oh, okay.
I do have a curveball for everybody. It has been over 10 years that we've been doing this. And you know what? The kids at home, they're all saying, give us something new, Uncle Joe. And I've got something new. Not only is this a podcast about Star Wars games, it is now a podcast that is itself a Star Wars game. And by that, I
zipping
mean,
something.
I will be
It's
keeping.
his pants.
Evan knows what it is.
Oh yes, yes I do.
It's my hoard case full of trivia cards. And from here on until the heat death of this podcast, I will be keeping score for every person who's on the show, much in the same
Oh,
way that Whose Line Is It Anyways keeps score. Um, that is to say, if you at home want to keep score, that'd be cool. I'm going to give people points and I'm going to forget about them. But now this show itself is a game and you are all competing against each other. And at the start of every episode, I'm going to read a card from Trivia Pursuit DVD Saga Edition,
ooh.
and I'm just gonna, whoever can buzz in
You
first.
buzzing? Okay.
Kurt, let me hear your buzz noise.
Buzz.
Evan, what's your noise? It's got to be audibly distinct from Kurt's.
Bing.
All right. First question. What diplomat is vice chairman of the Senate under Chancellors Valorum and Palpatine?
Vice chairman? Is there a penalty if we get it wrong?
Too slow. You both
Masameda.
get it wrong.
Bing. Masameda. Okay.
You're right, but you guys missed the time limit.
Arr. I didn't know there was a time limit.
0 points. I didn't either until you guys took more than a second, and then I realized we had to implement one because
Alright,
we got a
that's
show to
fine.
get to.
That's fair.
Who had rescued Obi-Wan when he fell into that nest of Gundarks?
Buzz.
Bing.
Kurt.
It's got to be Anakin.
Correct. Who greets General Grievous by observing, "You're shorter than I expected"?
Bing.
Evan.
Anakin.
Correct.
Was the first one Anakin too? They're
it's
all
like how
Anakin?
The
first one was Masameda.
Oh.
Yeah, I got it.
Live Mas, his motto. What vessel transmits an older clearance code to approach Endor's forest moon? Evan.
Shuttle Tidarium.
Correct. The card says the Tidarium, but I've never heard it called the Tidarium. It's always Shuttle Tidarium. Interesting. What color lasers are fired by the Trade Federation droid starfighters? Red.
Brown.
What type of vehicles are used to fly attack pattern Delta?
Bzz.
Kurt.
T-47 airspeeders.
Oh, but what's the card?
You are more. You get an extra point because you were more correct than the card, which just says snow speeders, which I think makes the score 2.5 to 2 in Kurt's favor.
Wow.
You are leading. You are currently winning the Jodo Cast, a Star Wars game. Period. Now, the aftermath of this game is us talking about the whatever we are going to talk about.
I will say we need a Porg sound effect for when you pull that out, instead of just the zipper unzipping.
The Porg scream. That too.
All right, so as everybody knows, because last week we talked about specifically the Atomic Game Studio update, which happened at Adepticon, Evan and I and some friends were also at Adepticon doing other things other than the studio update, and that's what we're going to talk about. Kurt is here as the neutral observer.
Just to make sure things don't get heated.
Yeah.
Want a clean, fair discussion.
So let's just walk through, I think, some just kind of general convention things, because this was the first year. So backing it up, just in case anybody doesn't know, because this happens to me on podcasts where people who have a very specific knowledge set are talking about a thing, and then I'm like, I wish you'd have defined the thing you guys were talking about before you started talking about it. Adepticon is I believe they call it the world's largest wargaming convention. Yes. I don't know if I call it miniatures gaming, but that's what it, mostly like Warhammer, Legion, historical games, little minis that you paint. This is the place that is the most of that happening. Last 2 years when we went, it was in Schaumburg, Illinois.
Schaumburg.
And it got too big for those Schaumburg britches and moved to Milwaukee. And that's where we were this year. And so it was, I feel like Evan's going to have more to say about this than I. It didn't seem like that much of a different experience to me, in the only marked way that being in Milwaukee was different than Schaumburg was. This city was prettier and nicer because we were downtown and there was a lot of older and larger buildings than Schaumburg area, which was mostly just, banks and restaurants.
It's basically a suburb of Chicago.
Right. And parking was admittedly more frustrating than we expected it to be, but still better than it was in Illinois. And those were the only 2 points I can point to that I was like, well, that's what feels different. Because once you get in the building is different, but the layout of the convention was exactly the same. Even all the vendors were, set up in the same place they were every year. So once you get inside, to my mind, is just I'm at Adepticon and the geographic location is pretty irrelevant. Evan.
That's me.
I feel like you have a lot more feelings about the geographic shift of Adepticon.
I do. And you did really touch on the major differences between the host city. Schaumburg is, people would often say like, oh, it's in Chicago. Like, no, it's not. It's in a suburb, and because of that, you get the things that are very suburban, like only having to worry about two major roads and
And
having
geese.
and geese.
There were a lot of geese there.
Yes, we had gulls, not necessarily of the sea variety in Milwaukee.
Yeah, they would. I mean, both the seagulls and the geese would come and peck at your minis.
So you see a
And
lot
they
of
pose
headless
different
minis.
challenges because a goose is bigger, it's harder to brawl with, but a seagull is craftier and it'll just come in before you know it. It's
Faster.
on
Come
the
in
other side of the
waves.
building with your
Yes.
Grievous.
And so dealing with Milwaukee, it's like every other, particularly Midwest downtown metro area. You got to know where you're going, and you got to keep moving if you miss a turn or you need your guidance on your phone to make sure that you know exactly where you're headed and which roads you can and can't go down, because there'll be a lot of one ways and closed off streets, and it's less obvious where you can go in a
That's
metro
fair. I
area.
will extend my gratitude to Evan and John for being my chauffeurs. I didn't have to do any of the driving, so these are thoughts that were not apparent to me.
You just got to kick back and put on some awesome tunes.
Yeah,
But
that Leo
sometimes
introduced me to.
sometimes the passenger can be really helpful in those scenarios for watching for the turns and stuff that the driver is missing. Like when we drive through Minneapolis and I don't notice I'm driving through red lights, my wife's like,
What? What?
they
Oh,
have, they
okay.
have lights like every like 50 feet in Minneapolis. It's like you don't even see the lights sometimes.
Oh,
Just
in
like
Anyways,
in
old
in the
and like
ladies
downtown.
and
Yeah, you're
dogs
right.
that just,
and like the
you
one
know,
ways, and there's like, oh, this is like a trolley street or whatever, a bus street, and it like gets
Yep.
complicated compared
it's
to
always just
Chicago.
like a cartoon like mishap when Kurt goes to Minneapolis, where all of a sudden he's like driving up the side of a building and he's like, I don't know.
There's like tunnels painted on building walls, and
Yeah, exactly. So you do get that, that shift in the I was going to say the migration experience of everyone descending, hundreds of people, thousands of people descending on a suburb versus descending on a downtown area. And uh, also, uh,
I'm guessing it's better hypothetically for like people flying in, though. I would think, or is it not that much
probably,
difference?
um,
None of us flew this year. I am no longer have to fly to Adepticon, so don't know about that.
That's a big improvement.
yeah, absolutely. So I guess we'll talk more about Milwaukee. Well, I guess I would also say that there's a lot more if you're staying close by to the venue in a downtown area. You can actually go walk places to go eat or grab sundry items, whatever. You can't really do that too easily in a suburb. So,
Yeah.
but again, that's like, oh, are you staying at a connected hotel? Well, great, you can walk around. If you're not, then you still need to drive in and out. But the traffic conditions were great in Milwaukee. There was never really a problem with it.
No, there was the one night we left when it looked like either a basketball game or a wrestling show had gotten out, and there was a lot of foot traffic just kind of spilling over the streets willy nilly, but that was about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a Bucks game, but there also was an AEW event Saturday night, I think.
Yeah, those were more
That's fun.
annoying than the seagulls when they would just body slam a guy onto your table while you were playing.
Also true. I mean, you got to get extreme. What's more extreme than being slammed onto miniatures?
There was actually like a miniatures wrestling game because every time
I
I
Yes.
was
walked
going
through
to
the
ask.
vendors, that guy was demoing it, and he was like the most enthusiastic guy in the whole convention because like you could hear him, narrating the moves that the little minis were supposedly doing to each other.
I was going to ask because that does seem like a semi-natural fit for a minis game if done right.
Yeah,
That's kind
definitely.
of cool.
So as a host city, Milwaukee's great. Looking at the venue itself, the Baird Center, it's a big, spacious, new. I mean, new-ish. It's obviously been built within the last decade or so. Convention center,
Not a fan
multi-story.
of this Baird fella.
Me neither. Um, uh, so
He would walk over and flick my minis around,
yeah,
and you
it's
couldn't
his
do
center. He
nothing
can
because
do
he
what he
owned the
wants.
building.
Yeah. But being in a downtown metro area in a really big uh, venue, the show itself kind of shifted from being having, well, to me at least, felt like it was small in scope and scale when it was ensconced in Schaumburg, and now that it has moved not only to take care of the parking situation and having more room for vendors, it it had, to me at least, and you might disagree, that it felt more like it was creeping up on a Gen Con scale, like Gen Con from like maybe 10-15 years ago. Uh, I think maybe I felt that way because of the big uh, venue change, because we had to go up multiple floors to get to the AMG event, the studio update. That was the fourth
Yeah,
or fifth floor. So
yeah,
this is
Wow.
it
yeah,
was up
it's
there. I'm
wide
trying to figure out who this Baird fella is. It looks like it
Local
didn't. It
investment
was.
firm Robert W. Baird and Company,
Oh,
and it was
how do you
built
find
in.
that?
That's towards the bottom of the Wikipedia page,
Oh,
and it
I'm
was
looking on their official website. They apparently don't want me to know who that guy is because I'm looking at the history of this building
it was
on the official
initially
website.
it was opened in the 1990s. By the way,
oh
not less than
okay
98,
10 years.
the Midwest Express Center, but it
Yeah,
wasn't called the Baird Center until 2023.
initially sold to Midwest
ah
Airlines,
Oh, here's the.
eventually Frontier Airlines, Delta Airlines. Apparently, airlines like this place.
It was built to replace the outdated convention hall of the Milwaukee Exposition Convention Center and Arena, aka Mecca.
well, you do what you can. And it's actually a very cool area. You've got this gigantic convention center, two attached hotels that were fancier than they had any right to be. I would assume they were
This was also
old
the
and
first
fancy.
year at Adepticon where there was like security and bag checks,
Okay,
Yes.
which
getting serious.
not complaining, but
They're
does.
looking for like counterfeit, like 3D printed Games Workshop minis.
I
Those are
heard
not
one
a
of
big deal.
the ladies doing the bag check say they're really just making sure you're not bringing beer inside.
And it's just like,
Obviously, like knives would be allowed. You need a hobby
Right, they'd be,
knife
but like their eyes are probably just trained to look for beer cans, so you
and
have to
guns.
buy their beer.
Beer,
Yeah,
beer
yeah.
and guns. But it's just like, okay,
So
but
you
so
have to
that,
buy your guns on from the convention center.
yes, there you go, exactly. Um, but that's one of the things that I found irksome. The two things that I found irksome are things that I would previously I would not have compared Adepticon to Gen Con. Now I would, because they have stepped up the scale and I guess the amenities, the level of venue that they're at is so much bigger and is closer to the Indianapolis Convention Center that I feel the critiques here are worthwhile. We'll start with the security. There were two entrances to the venue that we could access, and they both had security checkpoints. These are not counting hotel access. This is just you're walking into the
I think
building.
it was worse for the people coming out of the hotel because there was, only like one lane of traffic coming through the Skywalk Hotel with like
Yes.
one guy like managing everybody coming out of that hotel.
Yeah, so even the hotel skywalks had security. And so for me to just even go get Starbucks in the hotel, it was a matter of I'm going to go there and I'm going to be coming back either stuck in line. Well, I was stuck in line and had to get my bag checked. Just like
Feels
it's
like there's got
so
to
weird.
be a simpler way to do it that would
They
be
were
less.
definitely, it was definitely like some days they asked us to open our bags, some days they waved you through, some days it seemed like they were picking people at random. It definitely was like, I like the lady said, number one reason is probably just prevent people from bringing alcohol in, that they could be sold inside. They did have a metal detector. I think that like they could have just had people, because like I set up the metal detector at one point. I forget what was in my pocket, but
Your gun.
must have needed yeah. And they were like, "Is that a beer gun?" I'm like, "Nope." Let me keep it. I think it might have been like a can of Celsius in my pocket or something, and then I was just like, "This." They're like, "Oh, okay, go for it." And so, like, your phone wouldn't set it off. Obviously, there's lots of like metal in your like minis bags. I don't know,
My
like,
multi-tool didn't set it off.
yeah.
Uh,
So
wasn't supposed to have that.
I don't know.
So
I didn't. It just kind of felt like an extra hassle that I don't know. Obviously, security's a good thing to have, but I don't know if it was like doing anything.
well,
And
that
if
that's
it was thorough enough for me to think it was actually being helpful, then it would have been a genuine annoyance.
I
You know
mean,
what I
I
mean?
I guess we should be happy that they
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
require us to have clear plastic bags for
right.
everything. But at the same time, just like this is wholly unnecessary, and I'm because the scale of the venues are comparable, they don't do that at in Indianapolis. And if any state's gonna have a whole bunch of guns, it's Indiana.
It's also a bit impractical with the type of stuff people carry into Adepticon,
Right.
because everybody has these huge cases. A lot of people have like rolling carts
Yep.
of all their minis, and like you can't like look through all of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's kind of
I
weird.
assume it's probably some kind of standard thing with the Baird Center that they do for all their events, and it's
Oh,
probably a lot
certainly.
more feasible and sensical for like a concert or whatever, or
Mhm.
like some other convention where people aren't lugging these giant, you know, cases full of stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
for
but
sure. And for me, it I want to get a little soapboxy, but I won't. But the other part that was a major annoyance, you were particularly unhappy about this one, was that the parking garage, which was very accessible uh, in terms of driving, we never had a problem getting a parking spot.
no, not even like remotely full.
Yeah, not even close. We were always just like, pull in, there's a spot.
Hold on, I'm gonna Kurt. What's your level of expertise with civil planning or architecture or civil engineering type stuff?
I mean, I guess I would say pretty low.
Have you played
Okay,
Sim City?
I don't think are there parking ramps in
I'm
Sim
gonna
City.
I'm
Probably.
gonna pitch you a question, Kurt.
Okay.
You've built the Baird Center. You are Mr. Baird, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you go, well, of course we need a parking garage, which will be called like the Baird Center parking, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would be logical for people to be able to walk from their car into the building, the Baird Center proper, without having to go outside?
Yeah, I mean, usually it would be connected at a minimum through a skyway, if it was kind of a shared one.
Wrong. You got to go outside in the fucking rain. You got to go up and down 20 stairs trying to figure out how to get into the building through the connection, because this is the Baird Center parking and we want to go to the Baird Center. Obviously, we should be like, no, you got to go outside in the rain. It's going to take you 3 days to figure out the most optimal path, and you'll bump into a local who sadly explains, no, there's no way to get into the building without going outside first.
Your minis are getting rained on. The water-based paint is streaming off.
Yeah, the gutters look like melted crayons. That was dumb.
Yes.
It's still better than parking a mile away in an overcrowded parking lot in Schaumburg. So it was just sort of like, we expected there to be an easy access from the parking garage to the convention center, and there wasn't. And so we had spent a lot of time figuring it out because it was so obvious that such a thing should exist. We were like, oh, it's probably on like the second floor where, like, you know, because most of the stuff in the building. And so we go up there and we're like, no, and then it was dumb.
Well, and there were skywalks, as previously mentioned, to and from the hotels.
The hotels only, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at the whole downtown, you would consider it, you know, to be the rise of Skywalk.
That was pretty good. I'll give you that one.
Maybe it was underground. Did you go down and see if there was like a tunnel that went under the street?
You know, it's funny you mention that, because at the Indianapolis Convention Center, we have both. We have a skywalk from the garages and the connected hotels, and there is a tunnel that goes from the ICC to Lucas Oil Stadium. So
did you go to the top? Maybe there's like a zip line that goes from like the top of the ramp through a window.
We got to get our BD ones out and straight down. You're right. We didn't. That's my
bad. It's on a sorry, Mr. Baird, for all the times I cursed your name in that parking garage.
So, I mean, put those two things together, and, you know, it's 8:00. It's raining because we got rained on a bunch, and we're trying to lug our stuff from the parking garage, cross the street, get to the doors, and then you got
fight off the seagulls.
Fighting off seagulls, the gulls of the sea, and then you get to the door, one of the two that you can go into, and naturally there's a line of people waiting to get in. And I don't think we got like stuck in the line outside getting drenched or anything, but the potential certainly existed for that to be the case. And it's not as if that there was a tiny foyer before you hit the security checkpoint, but it brought down, I think it brought down the energy, at least, you know. Day 2, day 3, let's go. It's like, all right, well, make sure we got everything we need because we're not coming back out for a while.
Yeah, that is kind of unfortunate. I mean, like, usually you expect a line on like baggage pickup day, but every other day, not really, right? And honestly, given the time of year, like, it could have been winter weather pretty easily too.
I mean, it was like very shortly on the drive home. It was snowing outside the city.
They might even have gotten snow within the past week. We got tornadoes. You guys got snow, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a lot of complaining just now.
But then we get into the convention, and what do?
We do fun stuff.
So
it took us no time to get our badges.
Getting badges was the fastest it's ever been.
They did good.
For the purposes of our narrative, it was me, Evan, and John Lynch. Good friend of the show, good friend of me, good friend of humanity.
This is true.
Good friend to animals.
Also true. I think. I don't know what he thought of the gulls.
Yeah, so we all were doing the same things basically. So we all got our badges, and then we signed into the Shatterpoint League. We're all doing Shatterpoint League, and we're all doing Unlimited Draft. John and I did Shatterpoint Team Tournament. That I think it was the only thing that we did that Evan didn't do.
Correct, and I did not wander off to do any Warhams this year.
He stayed pure.
I did.
I'll give you a purity seal for that.
Oh, yay. I don't own any purity seals.
I don't know what they mean. I see people with those, and I'm like, does that mean you're a virgin?
I mean,
shots fired at Warhammers.
It could very well mean that.
I don't know what it means. It's just
it means they've
with
been blessed
absolutely
by the
no context. Hearing the word purity seal, and like, is it like a
chastity belt?
Yeah,
that's what this. I mean,
like a promise ring, but like made of wax.
Marines, I mean, they're the most unsexed people in all of gaming.
the in-universe characters, not the people.
Yes, the in-universe characters.
Not Star Wars gamers. We fuck.
Correct.
So yeah, Evan was keeping it pure Star Wars this year. So we did all of the leagues were like last year. The Shatterpoint League was called Balance of the Force, I think. In every game, you were given a light side and a dark side ability that applied to like your primary characters, and you tracked how many times you used each one. And let's say I used more light side. After when I logged that game, I say, hey, I went majority light side. They gave me a sticker that goes on the light side of this bigger tracker. And then eventually you lock in all light side, all dark side, and unlock like a super ability. This year, they were calling it Hero's Journey, and every day when you checked in, you got one of like 5 different cards that gave you a mission. Pretty sure I posted.
I did take a picture of my whole at the end of the day, or at the end of the whole thing.
Yeah, I took a picture of mine.
To put our cards together and see what our story was.
I need to find if it was on Blue Sky or Instagram or both.
Both. I can tell you because I forgot to post mine, but I still have it on my phone. So I can tell you what, like, just to give you a quick rundown. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but so day
just read
one,
the titles. We don't need to know what the abilities are.
All right. I have a bad feeling about this.
Okay, so you had a stomach ache.
Yeah. Well, there's like the title, and then there's also a little quote.
Okay, I found mine.
When all else fails, go with your gut. Then day 2, I'm just going to go ahead and read mine. Deploy the seeker probes. The quote is, most people can't even feel it.
What?
Yep.
Are these probes like physically invading you?
It. Yeah. It's free probing. And then,
so I found mine on Instagram, but I'm going to have to pull it up on my phone because Instagram on the desktop won't let me enlarge the picture.
Oh. Then here's when it got interesting. Day 3, everyone must know the truth. Once the truth gets out, it will change everything. And then day 4, justice is its own reward. You don't need parades when you know you did the right thing.
And so these
probing is its own reward.
Okay, so mine, I'll give greater context once I get through. Mine started with an unexpected message. They called. We have to get them out. And then it went to, I know just the right people to ask. It's not about what you know. It's about who you know. And then I had, let's just blow the whole thing up. Time to solve this thing with a bang. And then my end was also justice is its own reward. So each of these had like one ability, this main ability that might be different. They tended to all involve tokens. For example, unexpected message wanted me to make contact. I marked a thing on the map. That's a safe house. If I can get a primary person there, I roll a die. If I get the right result, they knock on the door and I get some bonus. For each of these, because you're expected to get in 3 games a day, there are sections that say, okay, the first game, this additional condition applies. The second game, so every time you play it, it's a little bit different. for example, my blow the whole thing up gave my primary the ability to choose an objective and make it everybody get a chance to run away, and then it explodes. And then for the rest of the game, that objective has like a negative condition if you end near it. So I like to think it was like some kind of Fallout zone, and it definitely made movement and gameplay very interesting to have like this area hazard on the map, which is not usually a thing in Shatterpoint. But like game one, it's like, oh, if you end here, get a strain. And game two, it's like if you end here, you'll take 3 damage. In game three, it was like something else. And so that was cool. And I think narratively, because you're playing with different teams, every time you play, you're not sticking with the same people. You're not really stringing together a huge narrative, but it is fun to have these prompts and like think of a story that could have been happening. Because like within the game, it's not like I wasn't picturing what was happening in the previous match related to that. But I do like to think that I blew up some guy, and then it ending things with a bomb and then getting justice as its own reward sounds like, Kanan in this case, because he was doing most of the work for me, blew somebody up. But then the news media made it look like he was like a heroic sacrifice martyr. So I martyred some guy who done bad, but the history will remember that guy who died as a hero, but I'll know the truth, sort of thing.
My day
It was
three
neat.
was my day 3, day 4 worked out nicely because my day 3 was basically a Rogue One scenario where I had to get to my token that was deep in enemy territory. I never did, but if I gotten there, I would have been able to move the struggle back my way. And then, of course, justice is its own reward.
So then, how did you like unlock these? You just kind of got assigned a random
Every
one,
day
or
when we got to the convention center, we went to the tournament HQ and said checking in for league, and they handed us a new card for day 2 because it was like a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 card, one for each day. And then yeah, you just get a new one every day, and that's all there is to it.
Yep.
And
And
then
what was
also
also
just
and they were
in
random.
I think there was at least 5, maybe 10. I forget what they said of each tier. So the fact that Evan and I had a couple overlap is a little rare for just the 3 of us. I don't think we had any overlap with John's cards. I remember last year there was basically just 2 options for each thing, and this year they had way more. So they put a lot of work into this thing that is gonna there. It's a Adepticon only. There's gonna be something different next year. And it's fun because it doesn't have to be balanced. You're basically still playing a standard game, but each player has one weird goof they can throw in and make things really crazy and unpredictable, which I really liked. And like I said, I just loved that one that I had that created like a hazard on the map that uh, made movement hard to think about. Although the one time I had, okay, everybody gets to move. And if you're still by this point, you take 5 damage and control of it gets reset to 0. And he's just like, okay, I'll just leave Wrecker there. He'll take 5 damage and then keep sitting there taking the strain because Tech and Echo can just remove it from him. I was like, no, he's the bad batch. Wrecker's immune to the radioactivity that I left there or something. And I think there were similar things for Legion and X-Wing and maybe Armada. For sure, Legion had a league as well that had their own set of kind of fun bonus things that I don't
and
know the details of.
MCP, of course.
Yes.
Yes. And what was also
So
really cool was that you got 5 tickets, or 5, we would call them credits, AMG credits, just for playing. And there
yeah,
was not
after every game, you just can go back and they'll punch your little card. You can log 3 league games a day, and that's how you get your prize wall tickets.
and there
Which,
wasn't
speaking
anything
of
like
prize wall tickets, I have some goodies from the prize wall that were given to me by our good friends at Atomic Mass Games to pass on to you. So
To
stay
me?
tuned. No, you, the viewer.
You were looking in my eyes through the screen.
Yeah,
Oh,
you've locked right on.
Well, we'll see if I haven't, if nobody's claimed any of the giveaways by the time you come visit in a few days. Maybe you can get some trickle down prizes. Um, no, I was like last year. If you remember last year, I came home with some extra swag to give away to everybody, and that's going to be the case again this year. I've got a bunch of Legion and Shatterpoint things that I'm going to give away. So just stay tuned to the YouTube channel because I will be posting those there whenever I get to them because I'm still catching up on lots of video editing and things. So they're coming. They'll be out there. So just keep your eyes peeled. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss when the giveaways come in, so you can get some foil Legion or cards. The prize wall stuff was pretty good. The Legion dice this year were the best dice of any fancy dice I've ever seen. They just had the white attack and red defense, but the red defense was like this dark red and gray marbled, and it was really nice. I did pick up a struggle tracker for Shatterpoint, the acrylic struggle tracker. They had one last year, and it was acrylic, and it looked just like the cardboard one. And this year, it was sort of looked like an Inquisitor's blade, red on each side. I did not get the range rulers this year. Last year, I picked up the Mandalorian ones. This year, they're all like Imperial themed. So there's like an E11, some AT-ATs, like a hand force choking. Didn't grab those because I wanted that struggle tracker more.
Now, for those of us that just played in League, we got the 5 wall credits just for playing. There was nothing for winning, so we didn't feel bad about losing. Oh, I lost out on this. But now the folks that were playing in tournaments also did get more based on
So
performance or just for
John
being
and
there?
John and I did the team tournament, which we didn't realize had additional rules that I think should apply to the Shatterpoint Premier format just regularly. So as a Premier team tournament in Shatterpoint, normally you have 2 strike teams that form a squad. In a Premier mode, you bring 4 squads, and you have to use each of them at least once. So you can mix and match your 2 every game. But you have, before the tournament's over, each of your squads has to have seen play once. So we thought that's what it was going to be, because normally in those tournaments, you bring basically 2 strike teams. Okay, I'm going to play my Rebels game 1, and then the rest of the tournament, I'm just going to play my Republic guys, which I think is kind of boring. This team tournament functioned the way I had assumed Premiere was supposed to function back when they first announced it, which is you cannot use the same combination of squads again after you use it. So you actually have to mix and match all 4 of your squads in different combinations each match, which is cool. However, John and I didn't realize that was the case, and so we had built our teams like I had said before. Well, okay, we'll have basically 2 different strike teams because they're never going to have to mix and match. Well, now they did. So we had like Kanan team, a Leia team, so 2 rebels, and then we had 2 Republic with Kiadi Mundi and I forget the other, Obi-Wan. And so they didn't mesh as well in some of those matches. It wasn't as bad as we thought, and all of our games were actually very close. The first 2 games went to time, or like the game ended right before time was called, so we didn't have to like worry about figuring out who won at time. But the first 2 games went 3 struggles right up to the timer, so they were very close. And then, but we lost both of them. And Evan, what you were saying with the tickets was every match, each team got 15 tickets. It was 4 rounds, so it came out to 30 apiece by the end of it. And then the winner of each match got 2 golden tickets, which get you a trip to AMG's chocolate factory. The golden tickets were basically equal to 5 regular tickets. However, certain things, if you paid only in golden tickets, were technically cheaper than that exchange rate. So they were like more valuable than just regular tickets, but sort of worth 10. For example, the struggle tracker I wanted cost me 50 tickets, but if I had paid with golden tickets, it would have been 4 golden tickets. And so we lost our first 2 games. Our third game, we lucked out and got a bye. Normally, I'm not happy about getting a bye, but in a 4-round miniatures game tournament, it was very nice to have a long lunch and be able to just hang out. Get our, we got the tickets for free for playing, and then, or for not playing. And then our last round, our opponents, because we were at the, 1 and 2 at that point, and our opponents were also 1 and 2, and they were just like, "Hey, we've been doing this all tournament. Do you guys just want to split the 2 golden tickets? So we get 1, you get 1." And we're like, "Okay, that's fine." And then it was like a stress-free game because there was nothing on the line. And we ended up winning that one, and that one was also went to Struggle 3. But they're all really fun games. There will be B-roll of some of those in my Adepticon recap video because all the tables are very pretty for the Shatterpoint tables at Adepticon. Less creative than the Legion tables because they're all like 90% the official terrain,
like gantries and stuff.
Yeah, I think there might have been 1 or 2 that was like some 3D printed like pirate hideout or something.
Well, and even within the majority Shatterpoint official terrain, at least a couple had I'm not gonna think of like
a crane. Yeah,
crane. There you
go. A lot of them had this like boom arm that like a crane that physically you could rotate it. If it was in your way or just whatever. Nobody used it for like gameplay reasons. With like a little platform on it that was heighted properly, so like just sort of a floating platform hanging from a crane that you could jump your guys onto. So there were a few like scattered like 3D bits, but for the most part, the tables weren't as like diverse as the Legion or the MCP tables.
Some great paint jobs on them.
Yeah, they're all painted. They're all painted very differently. There's these like purple like cyberpunk ones and the rusty ones and the pristine white ones. They're all very, very pretty tables. And they all have those stinking playmats that I want. They have a number of like AMG like in-house playmats that have the AMG logo and say Star Wars on them, and there's official Star Wars playmats that are not available to the public. It's like this like a cyberpunk one with like purple glowing, and then there's like a beach with AT-AT footprints on it, and there's a few other ones. I think there was like a lava one, but
things that they could, from a consumer perspective, just make them and sell them, and you'll make a ton of money.
Especially, so I'll tell you, if you go to Etsy and look for Shatterpoint mats, people make some that have very subtle, so they're not like obnoxious, dots on the map that correspond to the different objectives. So like,
so okay, the measure every time,
right? So like, okay, the nice. Little red dots correspond to this objective. The blue dots are this one, and I think some of them might even have faint circles around those dots to measure the control range.
That would be really nice.
Obviously, that's less helpful when your points are elevated, but still, it's neat. And so, like an official product like that would be, way more useful than the mats I bought for Imperial Assault that were, sort of a limited time use as things went in and out of rotation. It seems like something they got to talk to GameGenic about.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
The other main thing we did was draft.
For Star Wars Unlimited.
Yes. So we signed up for 4 pods of draft. We did one in the morning Thursday, one in the afternoon Thursday, and then I think morning and afternoon of Saturday.
Correct.
And Evan, what were your thoughts on the draft?
It was jump
What do
to
you think
light
about the
speed
draft?
or
Yes,
Do you
it
think
was
women
for
should be
draft.
allowed in the draft?
I think as long as you're 18, you can be in the draft. No. I felt, I mean, first of all, I was happy and surprised that, when we initially saw that they were going to be there, that there were going to be events there. And as you kind of found out through communicating with FFG, oh, here comes a hand.
Sorry,
Uh,
I feel like I was not in frame enough.
You determined you were talking with the folks from FFG if
Corey,
they were going to
shout
be
out to
there
Corey. Oh, before the con.
before, yeah.
Yeah.
And they told you that it was not like an official, like, we're going to send people there and be able to present our Game of the Year award and things like that. So it was it's not like they were holding official tournaments there, but they did have semi-official representation.
Right. Corey was there. He's the head of organized play. I think Fantasy Flight wide now. But everybody else there, I think, was mostly, from Cascade, the company they partner with to run events. But there were unlimited demos set up very close to the Legion, Shatterpoint, X-Wing demos. Were they demoing X-Wing? Do they want to? They probably don't want to onboard people to that game anymore.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But they did have. Well, did they have demos or just the learn to plays that sold out very quickly?
I don't know.
Okay.
There was ways for passersby to learn the game, but the presence there was definitely like casual and aimed at
us.
I don't think we were the target audience.
No, I don't think so.
No, because like there were certainly most of the people in our drafts had experience with the game, but there was also a lot of people who had never played the game before and were just like, "Hey, I like card games. I like Star Wars. Let's sit down. Hopefully, I can learn this game in a hot minute."
Yeah, that's true.
And he
at the
I heard
draft, even
at the draft, yeah.
Corey was saying, a lot of like X-Wing players were walking by. It probably helps that like Thrawn and Hera were like on the big artwork. The X-Wing players are like, "Woo! Does this game have an X-Wing? It sure does."
Hey, Asmodee still wants to get their money.
So yeah, there was there's some long, like 2 rows of long tables, and I would say less than 50% of the chairs seemed occupied at any given time. It definitely seemed like a pretty underpopulated space on the floor compared to everywhere else.
Well, and we should take the opportunity to mention that the halls, you said they were set up almost exactly the same, and they were. So the middle, if you split the hall into 3 sections, the middle was vendors as you're looking at it from the hallway. So to the left was the Star Wars area because it had all the Star Wars miniatures and unlimited. So
and
a whole
Crisis Protocol.
Yeah, well, see, yes, I'm usually the one that says and MCP, but yes, that was there too. But I mean, it might as well be the Star Wars third of the show.
It was because last year we had mentioned that with the addition of Shatterpoint, Armada got bumped out into like a satellite location.
Yes.
But this year, seeing Legion, Shatterpoint, X-Wing, Armada, and Unlimited in the same, space was very satisfying.
Yeah. Oh,
I did see a table where they had 4 Super Star Destroyers on the table at once.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So we'll get back to the draft, but this was so cool. I want to talk about it now. They had a viewing area set up where you could just sit down in a chair nearby to the eating area, and they had 5 big screen TVs set up showing the streams of Armada, X-Wing, Legion, Shatterpoint, and MCP.
Wow.
They had
That's
that last
awesome.
year.
Did they? I don't even remember it.
Yep, they did. But
Okay,
still, it was
that's
very
great.
nice.
It's so
though.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I feel like that's the big thing you need from at least from the company's perspective, or even from the communities at these conventions, is like, we want eyeballs on these games. We want people to walk past and see the Superstar Destroyers and see these games being played and be like, oh, something here, you know? So that's cool.
Yeah. But speaking of the population of the unlimited events, I was surprised at first, but then as we went on, I think I understood because I myself considered being a draft dodger. But because I was like, wait a minute, I'm at Adepticon. I brought all my Shatterpoint stuff, which I very rarely get to play. I actually, of all the games I get to play since moving to South Dakota, Unlimited has been the one I've been played way more than the rest. I'm like, I, I mean, I paid for this, so I could, get some nice cards out of it. I'm like, or I could just, go get a league game in and play Shatterpoint with somebody. And like, my heart definitely was not in the draft. The last on Saturday, I did play both of them out because by the time I sat down, I was like, well, it's nice to be able to sit. The other people playing are nice, and who knows, maybe I'll get a nice pull. Um, so I did stick it out, and I did end up with a decent stack of like foils and hyperspaces. But
Yeah.
uh, I definitely got, like if there's other people like me, if there's people who only care about Unlimited, they're not coming to a Adepticon for Unlimited. They're going to go to any number of other events like Gen Con or whatever. If there's people like me who like multiple games, I'm going to probably feel like prioritizing the miniatures game over the card game because it's Adepticon. And playing minis games at Adepticon is way more fulfilling than playing minis games in my own home, whereas playing Unlimited is kind of the same wherever you do it.
But
Maybe.
I could see it being nice. Just, I mean, maybe don't do 3 drafts or whatever you said,
Right.
Yeah.
but doing
We
one
probably
just
won't.
for a little variety. Like, okay, I'm not gonna use the same type of brain power as normal. I'm gonna
Yeah,
sit
I
down.
think in the future, if they do it again, I'd be happy to do like one draft or one sealed
Mhm.
or something like that. I definitely would stick with the limited formats because I don't want to come there and like get in the middle of the meta.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to
And
have
they
fun
did
with it.
have at any given time they had at least one draft firing at the same time as at least one sealed and at least one premiere.
And I think every now and then they wrangled a few people for Twin Suns.
Nice.
So definitely as like okay, I'm gonna schedule this in as like a little break, a little palate cleanser, a little relaxation draft, rather than what we did and say, okay, we're gonna do 4 drafts and we're gonna be squeezing them in around our Shatterpoint League and other Jodo responsibilities like the interviews we did and stuff. Um, so that I feel like I was just feeling a little burnt out on Unlimited, but it, that's yeah. I hope
It
that
was
it
fun. Overall,
stays there.
it was
Yeah.
good. We did it, and um I managed to actually win some games. Not many, but I did. Thank you. Thank
Nice.
you. Some very feel good moments combined with some
I
crushing defeats.
My most ridiculous matches were very much like my pre-release. I had Vader, I had Victor 1, and I had a buttload of First Order TIE fighters and Kijimi patrollers.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 out of my 3 games, it was so fast that there was just a million TIE fighter type ships in space, and then it was over, and they couldn't do a single thing about it. and that
And
was
I
like
stuck.
very cool, and also just like felt really dirty. It was just like, oh my god, we were both like, that was silly. There's so many TIE fighters that were impossible to kill.
And I stuck with my pre-release strategies of trying to get my leaders onto their signature ships, and then just be stupid, like Luke on Red 5 and Von Reg on
Yeah.
his TIE Interceptor. Both just get stupid when it can make it happen, but trying to make that happen is a bit tougher than cranking out TIE fighters. So
Yeah, my
I I
favorite deck
suffered.
was the very first one. John and I were sitting next to each other, and we both drafted Rose Yellow, which made both of our decks worse, I guess. But I must have gotten like the brunt of the good stuff because I ended up with like 2 Silver Angels, 2 Dilapidated Ski Speeders, and like 2 Astromech Droids, and Trace Martez, the one who can heal ships.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had Trace on the Silver Angel with like some Sentinel vehicles and Rose, and it was just like, okay, none of my vehicles will ever die now. And that one was pretty fun.
And yeah, the other part that you already alluded to, or you straight up mentioned, you didn't allude anything. The people that showed up to draft that had never played before, but they had played other card games, so they were able to. I mean, this speaks to the strength of the game. They were able to look at it and understand what was happening pretty well, and just took us
Yeah,
saying, you do this and this is what this means, and this is how you draft leaders. But even then they were just like, oh, okay, that makes sense,
yeah,
thanks.
that was the only hiccup in the entire 4 drafts. Was one of the judges came and was like, does everyone know how to draft unlimited? And everyone was like, yep. And then it became very apparent that one guy did not, and did not know you separate the leaders first and don't like go digging through the packs quite yet. And we had a bit of a, it wasn't like a huge deal, but we had a little reset, and then like there was like one card got slipped into another pack because the packs were touching, and
And then
I think Evan
I
ended
got
up with
the
the stray
road
card
card, yes.
because there was like the one extra card when it was all said and done, and the judge was like, okay, so which one of you has one fewer card than you should? And it was Evan, so he's just like, here's your card.
So yeah, that was good. And then we talked about the doubles. Oh, and we talked. I mean, we talked about the content of the studio update, but like I said, it was way up, several floors up from everything else, and the scope of the room is quite a bit bigger than what they'd had in past years. But they, of course, were kind enough to let us in early and get set up, and that was all very easily taken care of.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, we were at a Airbnb, which was nice. It was a pretty slick little spot, despite the. Do you know? Have you ever seen videos of like Japanese choreographed like walking, where there's like groups of people walking across a basketball court and like not hitting each other? Um, it's very impressive and cool. That I don't know for sure, but I think that's what the people above us were doing.
In wooden shoes, of course.
Yeah, it's like the Dutch team in their clogs. Like the one night, the first night we got there was some people who were like singing and giggly, and that was fine because it didn't go very late. But like the last night, there was just, I think they had a pact where some like perpetual motion cult where they go, okay, one of us must be in motion at all times, and they would just tag in and tag out because there was just footsteps nonstop the whole night. I don't know what they were up to. Those are my theories.
And we
You know
had
they.
we had to do our own little musical parking on and off.
Oh
Not
yeah.
terribly so, but it's like, oh, you can park in this one little spot, or on the street. And it's like, where? Everyone that lives in this area is parked on the street.
Oh yeah, and we did get in a game of Star Wars Bounty Hunters. 2 games.
We
Finally,
did.
after all these years, I finally played Star Wars Bounty Hunters.
And who won?
I think I won both games.
You did.
Even though I felt like the underdog both times, which is kind of a cool aspect of that game, is like you can go fast or you can go smart, and like
I went fast.
Yeah, they both seem like viable strategies.
So it's fun?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I wouldn't say it's like oh my god, everyone has to play this, but like if you've got 3 to 6 people who need a quick little game, the more you play it, the more the strategies become apparent. And it's fast because all the turns are simultaneous and the art is cute.
But you're not planning to hold any world championships for it
Nah,
soon.
it's not like high level enough for that, and it's not stupid enough for that. Which are my criterias of games I would want to hold a world championship for.
Right. And we, even though we were talking about, we'd like to be playing miniatures, not cards, we did play Unlimited as well at the Airbnb.
Oh yeah, that's obviously a much easier game to play in small spaces.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or on small tables.
The one thing that we didn't do, because I got there first and dropped my stuff and then took a walk around the neighborhood, and it was very old city, lots of very obvious neighborhood.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
You took a Milwaukee?
I did take a Milwaukee.
I just removed the rim shot from the soundboard. So.
Should we wait?
Well,
Why would you get rid of the rim shot?
It was a weak ass rim shot.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's a weak ass one, a Milwaukee. Never mind.
A weak ass.
Yes.
We need a rim shot that is played with Star Wars instruments. It's like a Figure and Dan in the modal nodes style rim shot, whatever that would be.
I bet, or the astromech drummer from.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Jedi Survivor.
No, from Book of Boba Fett. What's her name? The Sanctuary. Garza Fwip, is that her name?
Yes. Correct.
I bet that astromech drummer can do a good rim shot.
Probably. So it was very cool though, because lots of old establishments that have probably been there for generations. Lots of corner bars and cool looking eateries. There was an empanada bar.
Well,
like,
we were driving around and Evan is like, "Oh, look, it's the sausage place. I didn't think the sausage place still existed." And he's like, "Oh, there's that whiskey, bourbon, gin place." And John and I are like, "Okay, sure."
Because there was a Usinger's, America's Feinste Verste restaurant right close by there. And this place was advertised in the Adepticon newsletters, I guess. Maders, Mader''S, like one of the last few remaining.
I've never heard that word before.
No, it's a name, maybe.
Like
the tow truck in Cars.
Yeah. What does Mater mean? Mater or Mather, or Old English for Maître, or Old Norse for Mathra, which was the villain in a math educational game I played in elementary school. It's a name for a medical plant that is used in red dye.
Oh, okay. I just posted the link in our chat, but in any event, big classical German restaurant, probably been there as long as the city.
Mader's is a restaurant name. I thought, for some reason, whatever, it came into my mind like a zine or something. Like it was just like a, not a proper noun, but just a
Gotcha.
noun.
Yeah, I would have very much liked for us to have gone there, but I'm sure it was very busy.
Yeah, that looks nice. Maybe next year.
Yeah. There's also the Verst House, which was just down the street from where we were staying. So
we did eat at a pretty nice place.
We did.
Just some Irish pub
County
inn.
Clare, yes, County Clare public house. And it was one of the options that John presented to us of where we could stay. Like they had a few little rooms above the pub.
Wow.
Yeah. It would have been a tight squeeze, but and it was so cool because it was very obviously not any kind of chain kitschy, trying really hard to be Irish. It was very much a towny place, and like other metro cities, Milwaukee, at least 50 years ago, had like, this is where the Polish folks live, and then this is the Irish folks, and the Italians are over there. And so it was another one of those buildings that's probably been there forever. And it was great. Like we went there to eat and they're like, yeah, we don't start serving food for an hour.
They said, we don't serve your kind.
we don't serve you.
Then we cut off somebody's arm over
yeah.
He didn't speak English. His buddy was translating for him.
So we got drinks. And then we sat at the bar and we watched what all was on TV. There was horse racing on TV, and we tried.
There was something stupid that I like muttered, and then they were like, "Oh, we'll change it," and they switched it to something else, something entirely unmemorable, apparently.
Yeah.
Most of what I remember is it was nice. The beer was good. The food was good, and the lady behind the bar was picking our brains for ideas for Lord of the Rings themed drinks.
Because they're going to have a Lord of the Rings trivia night, and she wanted to have drinks, a good guy drink and a bad guy drink special.
My ideas were not useful.
I mean, I couldn't think of anything either, but.
Well, I was thinking of like, I don't know, like chocolate milk powder mixed with, I don't know, a little bit of coffee. You don't want it to, it needs to be some kind of sludge. And then like, that's like represents the mud that the orcs come out of.
Yep. I'm sure that was going to be the top seller. Orc sludge.
Yeah. Then you could like let it drip from the corners of your mouth and like coat your teeth. And then you'd feel like an orc.
They like do a handprint like on your face.
Exactly. But in like whipped cream.
Then your friend can lick it off.
And then, of course, I'm sure they were saying to the servers, "Whom do you serve?" And they were like, "You?
Table 4?"
So
I'm sure that's how it went down.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna, for anybody who's still listening, I'm gonna just give some shout outs to some cool people we saw. We met them at the first time I was at Adepticon 2 years ago during the Imperial Salt thing. Shout out to Brendan and Stephanie Bourne. You can find them online with Bourne Miniatures. And they gave us these fun little Adepticon bracelets, homemade, that we wore. They had entries in the MCP painting contest this year that were very cool. Fun to see those. We got to hang out a bit with Elle Firespray. She does a lot of cool painting stuff on Instagram. We played Outer Rim with her, and now I'm dying to play more Outer Rim because that game's great. And that was a lot of fun. And I'm sorry about your dice, Elle. Long story short, the highlight of that game, it was definitely like, I remember one of the very first times I played Outer Rim with Dan and Chris. Dan had Greedo like as a crew, and then he got a bounty for Greedo, and then for like 5 turns in a row he kept attacking Greedo and dying and trying again and dying, even though statistically he should have easily been able to do it. And eventually he just had to give up and walk away from Greedo. And in this game, Elle was playing as Hera, and there was a number of different options that kept happening that a fairly likely dice roll would have netted her some big money and big points. And every single time the dice failed her, and Hera just kept getting knocked down, stuck in the middle of space to stand back up and try again. Over and it's like, okay, like the 4th time in a row, surely it won't happen again, because like I'm rolling more dice than the opponent. This is silly. Nope. It was very funny and very sad. It's a great game. I'm glad that I brought it, and I'm glad we got to play it. And we also played it with Pigpog. Shout out to Pigpog,
Nice
patron of the show. Here's a Lego Yoda noise. I know fans of the show love this noise.
I think there's one more Adepticon item that you haven't covered yet, which was, and everyone is dying to know since the previous time we talked about Adepticon, did you do Star Wars trivia?
So okay,
how dare you? How
I'm gonna
keep
it. So there was. The answer is no. I was also asked this in a YouTube comment, so I hope you're listening to this. I should remember your name because I met you at Adepticon before we played Gonk Racing together. Hold on. I'm going to find the name because I don't want to feel like a jerk. I remember it's a cool name. One I should remember.
Philip.
Unity. No, it was
Philippe.
Diablo. He
the Lord of Terror. It's cool.
If like given name, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. Cool.
Not just a screen name, but anyway, he asked me if we went, and I said no, we didn't. And so I'm gonna summarize as to keep Evan and my feelings intact. Turns out this year Star Wars trivia was just easy peasy. Like we would have absolutely crushed it if we were there. Elle was there. Elle was explaining to us how trivia went, and it was fun. There was no bullshit questions like in past years. I actually saw an Instagram that I had to send to John and Elle that I'm like, this reminded me of trivia from before, and it was like a game show where someone goes, who is the father of Luke Skywalker? And the guy goes, Anakin Skywalker. And he goes, wrong. And then the next person goes, Darth Vader. And it goes, that's right. And I'm like, that was the vibe of trivia in the past. And so we said, it hurt too much. We've like, and it runs late. We said, we're not doing it. And turns out this year, we would have just mopped up if we had went. They were like just nice trivia questions, not too easy, not too hard. All the ones I heard, I'm like, oh yeah, that would have been just cakewalk for us. So,
and the final one, because you asked specifically what was the final one, because
I don't remember.
been our Achilles heel in the past.
The final one was like name everybody who's got their arm cut off in the movies or something.
Just the movies.
As opposed to last year's final question is, what are the 5 branches of Compnor? And the previous year's final question, name the Jedi on the Jedi Council in Knights of the Old Republic 2.
That one's on me. I should know that. Full responsibility.
So maybe we'll have to try again next year.
Or run it.
I wouldn't be opposed to running it because maybe I'll talk to I am acquainted with the nice gentleman who ran it the first year we did it, and then this year. So he ran it this year, and maybe we can tag team it, and then I don't have to worry about losing because I'll be the judge. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. But you know what? It hurt us, and turns out we could have done it. But you know what
Oh
was also nice? Going to bed on time.
wow. Yeah. Well, and especially like you said, the time of the year, it's still like dark at 8 o'clock, and we've been, pounding the pavement all day long. So
The
just
pavement or the
trying
pigment?
to. Oh, hey, oh, hey, whoa, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. Very nice. That should be on our
Well,
t-shirts. Pounding
yeah,
the pigment.
yeah. That's the like our painting division.
Excellent.
I think that's probably all anybody needs to know about the things we got up to in Milwaukee. They don't need to know about all of those briefcases we came home with that we found under that bridge. I don't know why you're
I'm
making that
lost.
face, because you're looking for elaboration and I'm not going to give it, because the people don't need to know about all those briefcases we got
Yeah,
that
apparently, including me.
weighed, well, some of them weighed about what a briefcase full of cash would weigh. Some of them weighed, that one that we made you carry was weighed sort of like gold,
I mean, when you open
allegedly.
it up, the light shone upon me.
Well, yeah, we had to do that too. It,
Yeah, you have to.
you can't not do that.
Can't not do it.
But we're not going to talk about that.
No. Also not Bruno. But yeah, I think
But I will say, in regards to that, because we don't have mysterious sums of valuable goods from Milwaukee, which definitely we didn't get, I would ask that you consider checking out our Patreon and supporting us there, because that's another great way for us to fund the show, is with your support. And it's still like, after all these years of having a Patreon, when there's somebody on there, I'm like, wow, that's cool. We've been
it makes a
talking for an
huge
hour and a
difference.
half, and somebody likes listening to that enough to give us a couple
Yeah.
bucks. That's weird.
That's a great pitch. You people are weird. Thanks for the money, you weirdos. But yeah, I think that's probably it. We could prattle on about teeny tiny things, although I think we did prattle quite a bit. Anyways, you
I
probably had this wrapped up 2 seconds ago, didn't you? That was it. We were done, weren't we?
I didn't even get to my anecdote about the Pokelator at the Baird Center. It's too
The
late.
Pokelator, is
Not
that?
it's too late. There's
Hold
no
on,
time
hold on, hold
There's
left.
on.
fish in the Pokelator.
Well, if this goes long, I'll make it bonus content for those patrons that we're all about to get. If it doesn't, it can stay as like a little sting at the end. Evan, you and I are going to pitch what we think a Pokelator is and does. The first thing that came to mind, okay? You know those like hurricane simulator machines they used to have in malls, just like a wind tunnel on a very small scale?
Yes.
That, plus in Iron Man 1, when he gets his suit put on by like robot arms, okay? You go in there, a robot grabs your wrists and your ankles and maybe your waist, and then polka music starts playing, and then it does the movements for you, so you can get the real experience of dancing to the polka without having to know how to dance to polka. And you might have a VR headset so you can, see your dance partner. That is what I think a Pokelator is.
I mean, I think a Pokelator is, an old school coffee pot that is used by men in lederhosen.
So
I think it's
Joe,
also a thing you say to Gumby's donkey friend when he leaves.
Pokelator.
Joe was pretty close. Here's the official description on Wikipedia. This is on the Baird Center Wikipedia page. From the venue's opening until 2023, so it was removed before you
Oh
guys got to see
man.
it. The southwest corner held an interactive art installation by Dick Blau titled Polka Time with an exclamation point. Also known as the Polkalator, it consisted of an escalator with 22 photos of polka dances on the wall
Photos? Whoa!
and a button labeled Push to Play Polka that played a random selection from 200 songs.
Wow.
Whoa. The random button, that's cool. Polka photos on an escalator?
Yeah.
That's not much of a sell.
Polka photos.
Dudick.
Most of the photos were taken at a 1976 party in Milwaukee celebrating the United States bicentennial. For some reason, in 2021, the venue suggested the removal of a photo with a man sticking out his tongue, but Blau refused because he considered the artwork a fixed set. The installation was removed on August 18, 2023
Man
during the
also
building's
was
expansion
in
project.
blackface, but that's not what offended the people. They were offended about the sticking out song.
The Baird Center returned the artwork to Blau, who said it would be difficult to find a new venue for it.
I think that's probably true. Dick Blau.
I mean, if you can't have a Polkalator in downtown Milwaukee, where can you have it?
I bet my dad would take it.
Well, hey, make sure you shoot him the link.
How much is the Polkalator? Can I buy it? If I can buy it for like $100, I'll buy it and give it to my dad. At least the button that just does a random polka.
Who doesn't want a random polka button?
I almost bought a polka album for 50 cents at the thrift store, and then I decided I don't actually want to listen to polka, and I don't want this banged up album ruining my needle.
Polka is always better when you've got several beers in your hand and you're drinking them all at one time.
You know what, everybody? Let's go watch some Lawrence Welk, North Dakota legend. The second most famous North Dakotan behind Josh Duhamel. Josh Duhamel and Lawrence Welk, the only people from North Dakota who have ever been famous.
That's it.
And me.
And
I'm number 3. There was an uptick in Jodo recognizers at the con.
Wow. Yes, that is true.
Anyway, I think we've overstayed our ending here.
Yeah.